Now isn't that beautiful? Well, if you look at that, pretty straightforward. There's 3 of these split conveyors and 4 of these sensors right after each of these split conveyors. And basically what it does is, as you can see, it distributes the copper ingots evenly along each of the conveyor sides one by one. So it first, as you can see shown by the arrows, it first goes through the regular way. As soon as it hits the sensors, boom, the first one changes, and it stays, and then goes here. Then, because it went through here, this one changes to this direction, goes through here, this one changes, and it goes through here, and boom, everything is back to normal. The cool thing really is, you can perfectly evenly distribute anything that you like that way. The only small problem is, the longer this kind of way goes, the more you have to kind of like, delay a bit how many copper ingots or whatever is going to come along. So in my case, because I have the petrified oil here attached, the smelter is incredibly fast and it will output a bunch of copper ingots at the same time. Eventually this kind of like evens out a bit because because the smelter is a bit too slow, but regardless, basically you're getting too many ingots at the same time and they will all go through the same path before even the sensor is going to change directions. So in that case I just put a time chest here, put it to 5 seconds, so it evenly distributes every 5 seconds one of these ingots, and it kind of like doesn't really overflow that quickly, and in case it does, you can just empty it and you have a bunch of copper ingots on your way. So that's pretty helpful. Obviously I could attach this petrified fuel also to the smelter, but that's not my goal at this very moment. I'm just very happy this kind of works. And it wouldn't be without Mr. Boo Boo that I found on YouTube. Somehow his video got suggested to me, even though I'm not subscribed to the person, and it seems a relatively fresh channel as well. So I'll put the link of the dude in the video description below so you can check out the original video. And I basically just replicated what he has done. So it's relatively straightforward. You don't need that many components. The setup of it is right down here. It consists of like 4 or 3 different kind of setups. So you need this part here. This part here, you need that 3 times. You need to connect it like that 3 times, in my case. So it depends on how many split conveyors that you have. If you have more than that, for instance, if you have a steel mill or a steel farm somewhere, you might need more of that. You might have like 8 split conveyors. That's what I'm usually going for. Or actually, I think it's 4, but whatever. In that case, basically, obviously, you need 4 of these, and not just 3 of these. And the power these things are going to consume doesn't even matter, because it's always going to be exactly 3 power. At least that's how it looked like for me. It was always exactly 3 power of output, which is perfectly fine, and exactly enough power for the split conveyor to be powered up. So basically, you connect all these, and you have like, this is kind of like these 3 splitters. They are the input power source for all of these 3 kind of, these machines, let's say, or these logics, or whatever you want to call them. And one of these is empty, so this pass through here isn't attached to anything. And so technically I could attach another one if I wanted to, so that's really just, it doesn't matter much, it's just to distribute the power properly to all of these. Because this kind of like needs one input to all of them. They all need to connect it to one input source, this one here, which is very important. And you need to split those, like you need to split that power that's getting in here to across all of these logic thingies that you have. So if you have a 4th one, you'll have to connect this one here as well. If you have a 5th one, you need another splitter, and you need to distribute this power all the way along as how many as you have, but with one single input splitter, which is this one. And this here are just general logical power source splitters once again, and these are for powering up the 4 conveyor sensors that I have upstairs. So I'll just go quickly upstairs so that you can see that it makes a little bit more sense. So how I distributed the power. So this one here, as you can see on the left side, is connected to the very first conveyor sensor. This one here to the second conveyor sensor. These are just splitters for these 2. This one to the 3rd conveyor sensor, and this one to the 4th conveyor sensor. So these really just power up the conveyor sensors, that's all. And the output of these conveyor sensors is respectively going to each of these logic thingies, I tend to call them, with the very last one powering basically all of these up. So, as you will see here just in a second, let me just get over here. So if I take a look at the output where this one goes, if my pad is not going haywire. As you can see, I connected to this one little OR gate right here. And what it does basically, it kind of like powers this up real quick, and it constantly enables power to be flown here, which powers up the split conveyor constantly. I believe it's a bug. It kind of feels like a bug, but hey, it works, so that's great. And basically I've done that the same thing for every single one of these conveyor sensors. So the first conveyor sensor powers up this one, and this logic thing powers up this split conveyor. Once an item passes through here, once again I have this one here connected to that one up there. And this powers up the second split conveyor. And once again the third one there, it's a bit hard to see, it's just how I set it up. It's powering up the third sensor, and this is powering up the third split conveyor. And finally, the very last one, which is this split conveyor over here. Let's just get over there real quick. My setup is a little bit wonky. But essentially, this fourth, very last sensor powers up all of them at once. So it goes through here, it goes inside this one, and it powers up everything that's here, which results that everything is going to be reset. So all of the power inputs, like these split conveyors, they will all be reset, set to 0 power technically, and they will no longer be powered up. So that's kind of like the logic behind it. But yeah, it's a bit complicated to understand, really. I believe it's even bugged, if I want to say so. The dude called it a feedback loop. I'm not 100% sure what exactly that means, but I'm guessing it kind of like, as soon as it receives one power once, it just keeps powering up this kind of thing because of the XOR gates. I do understand how the gates work. So the OR gates is basically as soon as there's power coming in from any of the two inputs, or both inputs at the same time, it powers up the output. And the XOR gate is kind of similar. Once again, if power is coming in from either of the two inputs, it powers it up, but not if it receives power from both inputs. And that's kind of like what happens here. If you power the very last conveyor sensor, it powers up this XOR gate and this XOR gate at the same time, right? So power is coming in here, powers up this and this. So this XOR gate here is powered up, and this XOR gate here is powered up. So they're both kind of like powered up at the same time, and it completely resets everything. Well, that's kind of like the idea. So once we get one power in, it kind of like only powers it up. It's really complicated to properly explain this, how it exactly works. I recommend just setting it up, trying to get your own kind of like sense in it, how it works. But yeah, that's kind of like everything how it works. You can apply this to copper farms like I did. So I'm basically just distributing just one copper ingot back to the Red Bronze Refinery. That's why I have these three things. So every 20 seconds, basically one copper ingot is being passed along to the Red Bronze Refinery, which perfectly fits with the two gold machines that I have. So that's kind of like the kind of like idea. So if you connect to two gold farms and one copper farm, it's not quite enough for one red bronze ingot to be produced. You need just a little bit more copper, and that's kind of like what I did with this. So that's just exactly the perfect amount of copper going to be passed along to the Red Bronze Refinery without it being overflown. So that's why I've done it in the first place. So this really just doesn't waste anything anymore. If you're curious why these are stuck, it's because the training is currently disabled and I cannot put molds in there anymore, so I have to wait until they fix that. But yeah, that's kind of like how you do it. You can apply the exact same logic to steel mills or any kind of farms that you have, so it's pretty handy. And you can even do it with coal if you really kind of like want to do that. So you can really, the huge benefit of this really is that you kind of like work around the item limit that eventually happens. Because if you remember, if there's too many items, these items are just disappearing because there's just way too many items on your island. So this is the main purpose of this kind of farm, which completely kind of works around this problem, and it's really handy in my opinion. It really does. It's really recommended that you actually set this up. So yeah, I hope I managed to explain it properly, I guess. I'm not really sure. If you have any questions, make sure to post them into the comments. I'll try to answer them, try to explain it a little bit. And that's about everything that I have to say, and Happy New Year.